It's all gonna be okay.
Maybe we're just gonna do it.
Do you know what the chances of us arresting someone are now?
I'm saying Zodiac was my job. It's not yours.
In 1969, in Northern California, a serial killer struck repeatedly, claiming the lives of 7 young people. During the investigation, an individual known as Zodiac sent dozens of letters to police departments and media outlets. Some of these letters contained ciphers, many of which remained unsolved for half a century until they were eventually deciphered by computer experts in recent years. He claimed responsibility for the deaths of 37 people, yet, to this day, no official organization has declared the case resolved. This case is the notorious Zodiac Killer case, which has become the biggest unsolved mystery in American history. The killer's extremely brutal and bold modus operandi sent chills down the spine of the public, making it a nightmare for all Americans at the time. In 2007, a film adaptation of this real-life series of murders, titled Zodiac, was released. The movie featured a star-studded cast led by director David Fincher, known for Se7en and Fight Club, and starred Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Alan Ruffalo as the Hulk, and Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. It received a rating of 7.7 on IMDb and a freshness score of 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, what impact did the Zodiac Killer case have on America? Why were the police unable to track him down? How were the encrypted documents he left behind deciphered in 2020 by an amateur detective team and officially recognized by the FBI? Today, let me take you through the long river of history, clear the fog, and unravel a century-old mystery. On the evening of December 20th, 1968, around 11 p.m., 17-year-old high school student David Arthur Faraday and his 16-year-old girlfriend, Betty Lou Jensen, drove to a secluded grove for a romantic encounter. In a remote parking lot on Lake Herman Road within Benicia City, they had just parked their car when another vehicle arrived and stopped nearby. A man armed with a gun got out and ordered the young couple to exit their vehicle. The boy had barely gotten out of the car when he was shot in the head without a chance to react. The girl, terrified, jumped out of the car and ran towards the woods behind them, but didn't make it more than 10 meters before the assailant shot her 5 times in the back, killing her on the spot. Local police conducted routine investigations into the case, but failed to uncover any significant leads, treating it as a standalone incident. However, just over 7 months later, a similar case occurred less than 4 kilometers from the original crime scene. On the night of July 4th, 1969, Independence Day, another young couple, 22-year-old Darlene Elizabeth Farron and 19-year-old Michael Renoma Joe, had left a friend's party intending to drive to the Blue Rock Springs area in Vallejo to relax. Darlene, a married woman, was having an affair with Michael. That evening, as they stopped at a roadside store to buy beer, they felt as though a car was following them from a distance. When they parked in an empty space outside a golf course at Blue Rock Springs, the same car pulled up beside them. A man got out, shining a flashlight as if he were a police officer checking their license. He approached the passenger side, dazzled them with the bright light, and then pulled out a handgun, firing 5 shots at them. Around 12:40 a.m. on July 5th, the Vallejo Police Department received a mysterious anonymous call. The caller reported a double murder, stating, "If you go 1 mile east on Columbus Parkway to the public park, you'll find them, dead in a brown car. They were shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year." Following the tip, police indeed found the 2 victims. Darlene was pronounced dead after being taken to the hospital, while Michael, despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest, miraculously survived. Police traced the call to a public phone booth and lifted some fingerprints from the phone, but none matched any on file, indicating the killer had no prior criminal record. On August 1st, the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald each received mysterious letters. The sender claimed responsibility for the two incidents and signed off with a symbol of the Zodiac. Each letter included a different cipher consisting of letters, Morse code, astrological symbols, and more. The three ciphers, totaling 408 characters, were dubbed Z408, Zodiac 408. The killer claimed the ciphers hid his identity and demanded they be printed on the front page of the newspapers. Otherwise, he threatened to continue killing until he reached a total of 12 victims. 6 days later, a fourth letter arrived, providing details only the police and the killer would know. The letter began, "Dear Editor, I am the Zodiac Killer." Soon after, a couple of high school teachers in California cracked Z408. "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. Killing gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all the I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife." The killer also referenced the 1932 American horror film, The Most Dangerous Game, in his letters, showing he was a movie enthusiast. On September 27, 1969, 20-year-old Brian Calvin Hartnell and 22-year-old Cecilia and Shepard were stabbed at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Hartnell survived being stabbed 7 times in the back, but Shepard died from her injuries 2 days later. The assailant wore an executioner's hood, sunglasses over the eye holes, bib overalls, and a chest plate with the Zodiac symbol. He used pre-prepared plastic clothesline to tie the victims together before unexpectedly stabbing them. Hartnell, who survived, provided the police with details of the attack. On October 11, 1969, 29-year-old taxi driver Paul Lee Stein was shot and killed in San Francisco's Presidio Heights. The killer then took Stein's wallet and keys, tore a piece of his shirt, and walked away boldly. The police could only sketch a portrait of the Zodiac Killer based on a young witness's memory. Shortly after the taxi murder, the San Francisco Chronicle received another letter from the killer. He included a piece of Stein's shirt to prove his identity and mocked the police for letting him escape. For the first time, he also announced his next crime. He planned to wipe out a school bus and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. This announcement caused widespread panic. A few days later, a call came into the police station. A man claiming to be the Zodiac Killer demanded a live TV phone call with famous lawyer Melvin Belli. During the live broadcast, the caller was incoherent and hysterical. The police later confirmed the call was made by a mental patient. However, the Zodiac Killer seemed to appreciate the impersonation and actually called Belli to thank him afterward. Over the next few years, he sent dozens of letters and greeting cards to the media. He claimed responsibility for 37 murders and several unsolved cases. Along with the greeting cards, he included a 340-character cipher, Z340, threatening to start working again if it wasn't solved. At the height of his notoriety, he demanded people wear the Zodiac badge, threatening a killing spree otherwise. He also commented on movies, once writing that The Exorcist was the best satirical comedy he'd ever seen. Paul Avery was a seasoned crime reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle, well-connected and experienced. Over the years, through his column, he continually provoked the individual claiming to be the Zodiac Killer, labeling him a clumsy criminal, a fraud, and a possible homosexual. After a long period of taunts and challenges, he finally received a Halloween card from the Zodiac Killer in October 1970 as a response, which included a piece of a cab driver's shirt. The card read, "You are doomed." Rather than hiding, Avery appeared on television interviews in 1970, showing his determination to confront the killer. His flamboyant style garnered him more clues, including an anonymous tip that directed his attention to a murder case from 1966. This murder bore similarities to the Zodiac Killer's methods and handwriting but occurred over 400 miles away in Los Angeles. David Tashi was a senior detective at the San Francisco Police Department tasked with capturing the Zodiac Killer. Finding the killer was like searching for a needle in the ocean until, 6 months later, he received a credible tip about a suspect named Arthur Lee Allen. Allen was a person of interest with numerous suspicious aspects. His whereabouts matched the crime scenes, he owned a bloody knife, and he had once claimed to be the Zodiac Killer. Tashi spent years investigating Allen and even found a pair of gloves identical to those of the killer in his cabin. Just when it seemed the evidence was conclusive, forensic analysis determined that Allen's handwriting and ballistics did not match those of the killer, leaving Tashi's efforts in vain. Robert Graysmith was a cartoonist for the San Francisco Chronicle and an amateur detective fascinated by the Unsolved case. He dedicated 10 years to investigating the case and published 2 books on his findings. The film Zodiac is based on his investigative reports. Following Tashi's leads, he discovered patterns in the Zodiac Killer's murders and other suspects. However, after going full circle, he found that Allen was still the prime suspect. At Graysmith's request, the police brought in a survivor from one of the parking lot murders, who identified Allen with 100% certainty as the Zodiac Killer. With both eyewitness and physical evidence, the San Francisco police were finally ready to prosecute Allen. Almost simultaneously, however, Allen died of a heart attack. In 2002, police DNA testing revealed that Allen's DNA did not match the evidence left by the Zodiac Killer, leading to the withdrawal of the charges. The Zodiac Killer ceased activity in the late 1970s. Regarding the true identity of the Zodiac Killer, various theories have emerged over the years. While it is commonly believed that the killer was a psychopath, some crime experts think the case might not have been the work of a single individual. They propose that the first 2 shootings could have been committed by one person, while a subsequent stabbing might have been the work of another. The suspects might have been trying to gain police attention and satisfy their twisted psyches by imitating each other's crimes. The turning point occurred in 2010. That year, a man named Dennis came forward to the San Francisco Police Department claiming that his recently deceased stepfather, Jack Terrence, was the Zodiac Killer. While sorting through his stepfather's belongings, Dennis found a black hood with a white circle and cross pattern, the trademark symbol of the Zodiac Killer. Wrapped inside this hood were numerous photos of corpses, a blood-stained dagger, several letters, notes, and a tape recording. The handwriting in these letters closely resembled that of the Zodiac Killer, and on the tape, Jack Terrence confessed to being the Zodiac Killer. Dennis was convinced that his stepfather was the serial killer and even suspected that his own mother had been murdered by Terrence. His mother had died suddenly from asphyxiation in their basement several years earlier, under circumstances that many found peculiar. Additionally, Dennis recalled that his mother had told him in his childhood that his stepfather had threatened to kill him, casting a shadow over his early years. Afterward, Dennis's evidence was submitted to the FBI by the American police, but whether it was DNA testing or handwriting analysis, the FBI's final verdict was inconclusive. The FBI had reasons to doubt Dennis's claim, one being that the Zodiac Killer's ciphers were highly complex, requiring extraordinary mathematical and cryptographic skills, likely at a university professor level. Jack Terrence, having a low level of education, did not possess these capabilities. A spokesperson for the San Francisco police mentioned that solving the Zodiac Killer case now hinged on computer scientists cracking the remaining 2 ciphers, which might reveal the true identity of the murderer. However, despite the FBI and official stance remaining inconclusive, Dennis himself has become known as the son of the Zodiac Killer. He has given numerous media interviews and even published a book, earning a substantial income. In 2020, an amateur detective group abroad cracked the follow-up ciphers of the famous Zodiac Killer case from half a century ago in California, USA, sparking significant discussion online. This achievement even received official recognition from the FBI, which stated in a tweet on December 11th, "These ciphers will play an important role in tracking down the Zodiac Killer cases from 1968 and 1969 in California." The document decrypted by the mentioned amateur detective group was the Z340 cipher from over 50 years ago. I am pleased that the decryption of this group of ciphers was accomplished by American software developer David Fincher, Australian mathematician Sam Blake, and Belgian programmer Jarl van Eyck. The inspiration for decrypting the ciphers came from the Australian mathematician Sam Blake, who analyzed the Z340 cipher and then provided 650,000 different cipher permutations and combinations. Then, programmer Jarl van Eyck made a brilliant entrance. This talented programmer developed a decryption software named Decrypt using the data provided by the mathematician during his free time. With the hard work of this decryption software, they made substantial progress. On December 3rd, their decryption software found 3 coherent words among a jumble of codes: "hope you," "wish to catch me," and "gas chamber." Using these clues, Sam Blake divided the cipher into 3 parts. The first and second parts consisted of 9 lines each, and the third part had 2 lines. Following this logic, they analyzed the key issue in decrypting this group of ciphers. Z340 likely used a transposition cipher, which encrypts by substituting and swapping characters with each other. It encrypts by rearranging the letters in the text, not by substituting existing letters with others. For example, by entering the sentence, "You must do that now," into the boxes below, and then reading them vertically, you would get the ciphertext. Once the real order of the letters is understood, the ciphertext can be decoded. To decrypt the Z340 cipher, one must first read these characters in a certain order. Start from the upper left corner of each section, move right, then diagonally read, and so on. Following this sequence, David rearranged the first segment, resulting in a combination that, after several adaptations and trials with Decrypt, led to a phrase that made the team jump from their seats in surprise. "The man on TV is not me." This text content perfectly corresponds to a TV program in November 1969, where a person claiming to be the Zodiac Killer called in, saying, "I need help, I am sick, I don't want to go to the gas chamber." The Z340 cipher also set many traps in unexpected places, such as the repeated appearance of paradis, which is spelled backward. Realizing this, the decryption team found another secret of the 340 cipher. Many words were intentionally written backward. Additionally, during the long process of analyzing the cipher, the decryption team discovered another secret. Many words were misspelled. For example, "now" is incorrectly written as OW, and "for" was written as FOV, among others. The problem lay in the letters OSRV, and after careful study, the team found that the last letter H in the line should be moved in front of the first R in the line, allowing these misspelled words to be decoded. With the help of the software, the decryption team ultimately identified 3 key issues in the Z340 cipher: a unique reading order, words written backward, and intentionally misspelled vocabulary. I hope you have fun catching me. The man mentioned in the TV show is not me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise quicker, as I have now gathered enough slaves to serve me. Others arrive in paradise with nothing, hence their fear of death. But I am not afraid, for I know my new life in paradise will be easy. When one suddenly realizes that their life is meaningless, how should they face this cruel truth? Perhaps time is the most merciless serial killer of all. If the Zodiac had never appeared, Paul would still be the playboy who went for a drink after work. Robert would still be living a happy life with his family, and Officer David would simply be doing his job with a sense of justice, following procedures. The three protagonists almost sacrificed their entire futures in the pursuit of catching the Zodiac Killer. Like desperate gamblers, they squandered all they had without ever seeing the day their fortunes would turn. In the end, Paul left the San Francisco Chronicle for an obscure tabloid, spending his days drunk at home. David completely lost hope in the case, eroding his fervent sense of justice. Robert was the closest to the truth, never giving up. Even after years of investigation, he finally pinpointed the killer. But there was no evidence. All efforts were just speculation, and for this speculation, he sacrificed his own happiness. Decades later, when the pursuit of the killer had become utterly hopeless, everyone realized that their best years had been wasted. They fell into a vast void, and each made different choices. Paul surrendered the rest of his life to alcohol, using physical self-destruction to cope with his spiritual impotence. David became a cynic, using indifference to cover up his inner unwillingness. Faced with the nihilism symbolized by the killer's absence, the protagonists either gave up on themselves or lived in self-deception, with only Robert still persistently pursuing the killer. But in reality, Robert was the furthest from the case. He was neither a police officer nor a journalist, and even if he had truly identified the killer, he had no authority to enforce the law. So why did he still do it? To this, Robert's answer was, because no one else was willing to. A person's life, in fact, has no meaning. We all live for the meanings we construct for ourselves, but that is not at all false. On the contrary, it is the struggle for it, fearlessly and persistently, in defiance of a meaningless life, that is meaningful in itself. He is the true unsung hero. In the end, Robert turned his decade-long pursuit of the killer into a book, Zodiac Unmasked. That book was placed in a bright glass window, forever commemorating a story without a captured criminal, filled with regrets but not despair. Just like everyone in front of the screen who fights for the cause they believe in, they are the true brave ones in life. Meaning does not exist objectively, but is our subjective determination and ultimately achieved through relentless pursuit. Thank you for watching today's video. The Zodiac case reminds us that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, and justice sometimes requires time to reveal. If you have your own views on this case, feel free to share them in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our updates.